All right. Hello, Internet. Welcome. We are playing a game for Gauntlet Games Now, a game-on-demand type thing that we do here on the Gauntlet. Thank you, Yoshi, for starting that off for us. And yeah, today we are going to be playing a game of For the Queen. For the Queen is a yet unreleased but almost released game by Alex Roberts, the same mind that brought us Starcrossed, if you haven't heard of that. If you are watching this on YouTube after the fact, down in the notes underneath this video, there will be a link to the official Evil Hat page, the splash page for the Queen. So you can go there. If it's already released, great. That's where you'll get information on how to get it. If it's not, you'll get other information there, like approximate date of release type information. So before we start, we'll go through a round of introductions. So all of us will introduce ourselves just real quick and our pronouns. And then once we've done that, we'll just launch into the game. So we will start over there with Diana.
Hi, I go by Diana Moon online. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, either as Diana Moon or X Diana Moon X. I am a contract narrative scriptwriter, and I'm very excited to play this game for the first time, and I go by she, her.
Hi, my name is Donna McCarthy. I go by he, him. I'm based in Dublin, and I'm quite happy to be at my first Gauntlet Games Now session.
Hello, how are my levels? Good?
Good.
My name's Eric, I go by he, and this is my first Gauntlet game, so I'm super pleased to be here.
Hi, I'm Leandro, he, him, pronouns for me. I'm also based in Dublin, which honestly, I didn't know there were other Gauntleteers in Dublin. We should meet up at some point, Donna, just saying.
I'm Maria, she, her. I'm one of the few people, if not, yeah, one of the few people who is not in Europe now. So, or is it half? I don't know. I haven't counted. Too tired to do that.
I am Mikael. My pronouns are they, them. I'm based in Oslo, and I'm playing this game for the second time, so I'm like a veteran. And it's great.
Hi, my name's Patrick. I go by he, him. I blog. I'm also on Twitch and Twitter at Fictive Fun. Love being a member of the Gauntlet. This is my second time playing this game, and I got a pretty cool new feature. My lights changed, so I don't know the color of royalty. So let's go purple or bluish.
Very cool. My name is Sabine. I'm in Germany, and I've played for the Queen before, I think twice. Yeah, twice. And I'm looking forward to playing it the third time.
Nice. And finally, I'm Tomer or Tomes. You'll find me on the Gauntlet and other places online, at tgrants, I think, on Twitter. And I go by he, him. And yeah, I have played this game too many times to count. I have literally lost count of how many times I've played this game. But any of you who have played more than once, you are veterans, because there are not too many people who could say they've done that. But yeah, I'm excited to play again. And without further ado, we will just launch into it. We will take turns reading cards, and that will explain the game to us. And then we will, and occasionally I will interrupt if there is a little clarification required. But that's it. So I'll pass it over to Diana to start.
Okay, go around the table clockwise, taking turns reading these cards aloud. The land you live in has been at war for as long as any of you have been alive.
And then from here on, we're going to take turns reading these.
The Queen has decided to undertake a long and perilous journey to broker an alliance with a distant power.
The Queen has chosen all of you, and no one else, to be her retinue and accompany her on this journey.
She chose you because she knows that you love her.
So I will interrupt real quick. I won't have you guys waste your turn on this one. But this one says, if you like, select a queen card to help inspire you. The actual cards, when they're produced, actually have, ooh, I have it here. Let me go grab them. Let me show you what they look like. So these are the For the Queen cards, and they're kind of like a nice tarot-sized version. And there's some instruction cards like we're reading, but there are also some queen cards. And these are the queen cards. That's the back of the card. It says queen. And the front of the card are different queens. So when you actually get like the final version of this game, they have, you know, maybe like, I don't know, it's over a dozen of these kind of like sample queen cards. And, you know, they're just various and sundry images to help inspire you for the queen. Now, you don't need to play with anything like this. You could just jump into the game and the queen will be defined through play. That's fair. However, one of the problems we have here is we have a lot of people, right? And so I found that playing with a larger group, sometimes it's good to either throw out a concept that everybody's on board with and just kind of use that. It's okay if that concept is very, very vague. So as an example, the first time I played with a very large group where we had about 10 or 12 people, the concept was we are literal bees and the queen is like a queen bee, right? And so we played as bees. And then the first time I played in a large group online, we just took that and we made space bees. So that's where the space bee game came from. But I've also played in large groups where we took other concepts, like we had a dancing queen or we had other types of queens, just based on whatever, you know, whatever everyone was on board with. In this case, you know, I'm open to leaving it, you know, like we can make this a discussion, or people could just kind of like speak up if they have any kind of generic things, maybe like one or two, like a word or a concept that they're interested in. We could also just say pass. So what I'm going to do is I will go around the circle, starting with Diana, and we'll go all the way to me. And, you know, if you have something that like some idea of this queen that you can put together in maybe a word or a phrase, then throw it out there, and then maybe we'll see what we end up with when it gets to me. You can also say pass if you are open to anything. So let's start with Diana and just go across the chain.
Because a certain game has been on my mind lately, I'm going to say Queen of Assassins. That's a suggestion.
Pass.
The movie The Warriors.
Because I'm looking at the book right now. Fairy Queen of Assassins.
The Fairy Queen of Assassins can reincarnate, and it is very inconvenient.
Pass.
When I was growing up in South Florida, there was a boat that used to traverse the canals there and give tours, and it was called the Jungle Queen.
I just want some glamour on this queen, some kind of this disco light balls, something like that.
Okay, so this is what I'm hearing, and let me know if you guys are all on board. So far I'm hearing some flavor of the Warriors. So that already to me like rings a little bit of like some kind of feeling of a little bit of like a post-apocalyptic setting. There's a jungle queen, so we've got maybe like this old, you know, what used to be a civilization that's kind of fallen apart and has just become engulfed by the natural environment around it, and it's now like partly a jungle. And we've got a glittery, glamorous, there's magic in some sense, right? Because we've got this fairy queen that is also the Queen of Assassins. And so this is the queen that we are following. Does that sound about right? Did I miss anything? I might have missed something.
She can reincarnate, and it is very inconvenient.
Yes. So this may be a fairly recent queen or not, or maybe it's not the queen that I grew up with. I don't know. So we have this like conglomeration of concepts. I'm happy to start here because this is enough for us to kind of get going. And then as we answer questions, we'll find out more about this queen. But it kind of puts us all, I guess, on kind of the same page as far as the world we're in, right? So we're not in space. We're not, or not that we know of, right? We're not in just some generic, you know, European medieval land or something like that. So cool. Before we start, does anybody want to add anything else there?
If I may, maybe if we are set in Earth, possibly like maybe like Latin America, since you said jungles, that would be a nice, like, interesting
That sounds good.
location.
So I'm going to say like maybe it's Earth, maybe it's not. Let's go with like we can see elements of this maybe used to be Earth, right? Like maybe we're, you know, and it's maybe far future kind of thing. Maybe we will see there's ruins of some civilizations in the past, but the jungle is overtaken and we are not living in like an urban environment that modern people of like us would consider urban, right? So does that sound cool? Okay. Then I think we've done discussion. So that was, let me go to the next card. And Maria, I think it was your turn.
Set the card that reads "The queen is under attack" aside.
So I did that and I put it in the deck. I put it on the side, sorry. Like in a real game, you would do that.
Shuffle the question mark cards and place them face down in the center of the table.
So again, what I've done is I've shuffled the slides like after these instruction cards. So I don't know what order they're in anymore.
Put the queen is under attack card in the middle of the deck for a game that takes approximately 30 minutes, or shuffle it into the bottom third of the deck to play for an hour or more.
And as we all know, those timings are completely inaccurate for story gamers. But they might be accurate for like if you brought this to a family party and somebody or people who aren't RPG people and they just had this deck and just played, like that timing might be accurate, but that's not going to be us today. So I put the card a little bit below the middle of the deck. And what I'm going to do before we start is just to get a time check to see about where most of us can go. And we'll either get to that card organically, or if a lot of us have a time limit, like 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever, then at that time an alarm will go off and the next card will be "The queen is under attack."
Continuing clockwise, take turns answering the questions on the question cards. Interpret these cards and answer them however you wish.
Other players may ask you questions or make suggestions on your turn, but whether you answer those questions or include those suggestions is entirely up to you.
Place the X card somewhere everyone can easily reach it.
And of course, in a game where you played with the physical cards, one of these cards, in fact, you can see here in the deck itself, one of the cards is an actual X card. So you can take that and stick it in the middle of the table. But we're playing in online space. So the way we're going to play is you can do an X, you can type X in the chat, you can say X card. You can also just say whatever you want, like, oh, can we remove that? Because not all of us may be looking or seeing or hearing everything at the same time, if somebody puts an X in the chat, for example, and I'm sitting here talking and I don't notice it, anybody can feel free to bring it up and say, oh, by the way, you know, that kind of thing. Cool.
If you encounter a card or an answer that you don't want to be included in the game, tap the X card. That content is removed from the game.
If you draw a card that is removed this way, simply draw another card. You can X a card that you drew yourself.
So that's in that case where you draw a card and are reading that card to answer for yourself. If somebody else or if you yourself decides to exit, you would just get the next card and you would read that as if that was your card.
You can also pass on your turn. To do so, give the question card you drew to the next player and say, "I'd like to hear your answer to this question."
A question mark card can be passed around the table until someone applies the X card to it.
Or until it's answered, of course.
Continue answering, passing and Xing questions until the queen is under attack card is drawn.
Each player should answer that question in turn, then the game is over.
Whoever wants to can draw the first card.
Okay, so before we start, does anybody have any questions?
Well, actually, I missed the one. I missed a few. I think a couple of questions.
Let me just double check. So we talked about the X card. We talked about using it for any cards. If you X a question that you drew,
yeah. It's just explaining the X card. Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
It was mostly just explaining the X card, but also when you get a card on your turn, so let's say you pick up a card, instead of answering that one, you can also pass it. So I might get a question and look at it, and instead of wanting to X that card, I can say, you know what, I'm going to pass this to the next player, and it would go to Diana because she's the next one in order in our circle, right? You do not pass it to anyone you want, it just passes to the next person. And they can either pass it or answer it, or they can X that card if they want to. It's up to them. But I think, yeah, that was pretty much what you missed. And there's sometimes questions that come up during play, and we will talk about it when that comes up. But if nobody else has a question, does anybody want to go first?
I'm happy to.
Okay, then I will turn to the next question, and we will start the game. And my recommendation is always read the question aloud. Even if you decide to pass it, that's fine, but read it aloud, and then you can say, I'll pass it, or you can, and take your time too. Like, don't feel rushed. Like, read the question, think about how you want to answer it, if you want to answer it, and then just go for it.
Yes, so this is a complex one to draw first because it raises questions about like where my narrative authority begins and ends. You know what I mean?
Oh,
so,
absolutely. And to answer that, I think the best thing about this game is that a lot of it is, if you want to make suggestions, go for it. And it's really up to the other players whether they want to accept those suggestions or not. In the same way, when it's your turn, you know, if something comes up and I have a suggestion, or if I have a question I want to ask you, I can do so, but it's really up to you as the active player to decide to use it or not in the end. So what I would say is just do what you want to do, feel it out. You know, you can actually even see if there's a volunteer, if somebody wants to volunteer to be a partner for you, if this question has to do with having somebody else attached to you in the group in some way. So, you know, do any of that stuff. But rest assured that if you do suggest something that somebody has a problem with, we've got that X card, and anybody can use it at any time, you know, for any reason.
Got it.
Can I just interrupt? I'm sorry, but should we do the deadline thing before we start the game?
Yes, thank you. I forgot. So first question, right now, it's 45 after the start time, after the hour. I know that I've got, let me see here. I've got 2 more hours that I can play approximately, or 2 hours and 15 minutes or so. Does anybody, and I know Maria, you have to jump out before that, so that's cool. But can everybody make another 2 hours for this game, or is that too much? Can everybody make it? I can see your thumbs up, so that's all good. All right, awesome. That's, I think, the most I can do. So why don't I set an alarm for about 2 hours from now, more or less. Again, if we hit that last card before then the game will end then, but that'll give us an upper limit. All right, then, I'll hand it back to Eric and go for it. And you can always X this question too. Do not feel bashful about Xing a question. There are plenty more questions. So if this one is like, oh, we just got it too early, we don't know who each other are, we don't want to say someone else we love in the retinue, feel free to toss it. That's fine too.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think I'll take a crack at answering it in a way that tries to stick to the question as closely as possible without accidentally like elaborating farther than we need to. So
yeah.
I hope it's not too much to say that.
But first,
we are...
read the question.
Oh, right. Yeah. Important. Yes, viewers. There is someone else in this retinue you love besides the queen. How and why are you keeping it a secret? So if we are guarding the queen on what could be a perilous journey, it stands to reason she has probably guardians by her person a lot of the time. And without knowing exactly the details, I would say that it is a secret because it would interfere with the conduct of guardianship, that it impairs the alertness. So I'm sensing a character that is in some way very duty-bound. And so that's why they would keep it a secret. And how would be, like, I think insisting on not sharing rotations, as it were. So like setting up a sort of shift system, basically, in which we're never sort of like around the queen at the same time, lest in a sort of like fleeting moment I'd be distracted from my duties and oh no, there she goes. So I think that works.
So you're both guards, right?
Yeah, I suspect we'd both have to be in some way. I mean, I can actually leave it wide open. The other person could have any other reason to be around her person, valet, diplomatic or advisorial, whatever capacity. It's just set up in such a way that I try not to be on the same timeline as they are whenever possible. Maybe I work nights, that kind of thing.
So, and what I want to clarify rules-wise for the game is Sabine just asked a clarifying question, right? Sabine said, you're just both guards, right? That is a question during this game right now, at anybody's turn, like Eric's turn, he or they will be answering these questions, but it's up to us to ask any clarifying questions. That's what we can do during anyone's turn. So for example, I might say, Eric, it sounds like you're kind of dodging the question a lot. Does anybody else know that you have another love here in the retinue? Now, Eric can answer that question in whatever manner he wants, the way he's been answering it right now, or he can change the way he's answering it. But he can also go, and I'm telling you guys this because you guys all have this ability, you can also at any time go, I prefer not to answer that question, or dodge the question. That's fine too.
Can I ask for a volunteer? Because the implication of does someone else know might make me say, is there someone who would find it interesting to be that person who knows somehow?
Absolutely.
And actually, can I add at this point X that suggestion that he just said, because it doesn't specify that who it is. So the other person might not even know that they're loved.
That's true.
Yes.
So you can, and again, this is table talk, right? So we're all friends here. So yeah, if you want to X that as a possibility, and like if everybody's cool with it, right? Like, yeah, let's, maybe at this point we want to keep it fairly non-defined. So as we're all exploring who we are, we can kind of dive into it. And I think that's something we were. But I do have another question for our friend here, which is, it sounds like you're a guard, and it sounds like you are put into these shifts to prevent you from showing your love for somebody other than the queen. What's the punishment for showing your love, if I'm reading this correctly?
Oh, I had not considered that. So originally, I guess I had thought more that in order to guard someone 24/7, you have to have shifts. And it would just follow that in order to conceal one's love, one would just deliberately seek the other shift, as it were. But that's actually a really interesting idea. So if people want to follow that implication, that implies the queen is like an intensely jealous and somewhat paranoid person who actually, if you're the queen of assassins, maybe this makes a lot of sense, who would deliberately prevent bonds from forming among her subordinates lest they overthrow her, which is a weirdly exploitative kind of love and kind of cool. So I would be totally fine with dictating that, actually.
Yeah, I got one more question, or at least another question. Do you act awkward when this other person is around?
Yes, I think it seems like a pretty typical answer, but I'm fine with that. Yes, I think a normal veneer of reserve and professionalism starts to show cracks, which is also embarrassing, not just dangerous.
Now, whenever there's some moment of kind of pause and nobody's answering anything or asking any clarifying questions, at that point, what I'm going to do is I'll move on to the next card, and then the next person can go. If for some reason I move on to the next card and somebody's like, oh, wait, I have a question, just speak up and we'll jump back and let you do the question. You know what I mean? Like, this is all fun game stuff. So, but I will, yeah, go ahead.
I have one sort of rules or meta question, which would be that I don't know what the sort of general cards look like. Will there be cards that will sort of force us to establish concrete things like names and appearances that help us imagine our characters better, or are we expected to throw those in as we go?
I would say the latter. The game is entirely these questions that are about your relationship almost exclusively with the queen, but occasionally with the journey or the land we're traveling through or things like that, or maybe the reason why we're traveling. But they always have to do with you and something else that has to do with the journey. And occasionally, like in this question, it has to do with somebody else in the retinue. Those are fairly rare. So it's really up to you to flesh out any of the things, or these clarifying questions will also flesh things out.
Okay, got it. So, I mean, I will avoid adding much of that right now. I think the first question goes pretty deep, so I think I'll leave some space.
Why are some others at the royal court jealous of your relationship with the queen? As I didn't mention this, but I feel like I've answered this question before the last time I played for the queen. So I'm going to pass this card to Maria so she can answer this if that's okay.
It's always okay. Now, Maria, you can answer the question, or alternatively, you can pass it, or you can exit, in which case the question goes away and you get a new card. But I would recommend reread the question when it comes to you.
Why are some others at the royal court jealous of your relationship with the queen? It's the only one that's physical.
How do we know it's the only one that's physical?
It's very public. She likes showing off. And by she, I mean the queen likes showing it off.
So are you in a formal relationship with her, like a marriage or something, or are you more of a lover or a cousin?
I think it's the latter.
And how do you feel about that?
I'd rather not answer.
Why does she enjoy showing you off? Are you like a trophy, a conquest?
Yes, I am also okay. Is it okay for me to define something like I'm the only male in the group? Feel free to discard this if you wish.
Yes, and I think that's the best way to do it, right? Is to go like, okay, you know, and it can be a discussion just like you did. If we're all very comfortable together or we're a small group, you can just say it, and then of course we can exit if we're like, ooh, you know what, I kind of was already, you know, define my character in that way or whatever. But yeah, I think that's fair to bring it up, and I'm okay with all that. And again, anybody can.
I can't see any X cards, by the way, so if it's okay if you can type them.
Well, I'm just gonna say X card of not that you're the only man in the group, but that's the only that X card. The reason that that's the only reason she's physical, because that implies she's heterosexual.
That makes sense. Cool.
But I have no problem if you're the only man in the group.
All right. Cool.
Can I clarify this a bit by you being the only, let's say, functional man in this way in the group, so that there might be other male persons, but they aren't actually able to, well, do what you can do. Would that be okay?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, cool.
Like, I was thinking, since this was kind of post-apocalyptic, for whatever reason, most men aren't sterile or whatever. or are sterile rather. And again, feel free to discard me.
Do you like the queen?
I kind of have to. It's,
You have to. Oh, you have to. Okay.
I have to because I'm in this retinue because I love her.
But do you really have to?
Just to clarify, the text in the beginning of the game says she has brought you here because she knows that you love her. It doesn't say anything about whether or not you love her.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
But that's still my answer. Like, I have to.
What happened to the last consort?
I'd rather not answer.
Oh, well, this is the Queen of Assassins after all.
Do you know what happened to the last consort?
No.
I do have a question, which is, you know, how do you look? Like when we look at you, what is one of the characteristics that we will see? Whether that's clothing, whether that's your physique, anything. What do we see?
I think if we look on it on my character in the present, as in us out of character, it would not be anything impressive. It's more like it's just and yeah, I just have a bunch of clothing on top to cover myself when I'm not needed.
You're not an assassin, I gather.
Incorrect. I am an assassin.
Okay.
Have any of us seen you kill somebody?
That would make me a shitty assassin. So no.
Yeah, that's a good thing to follow up then. What is something you do for the royal family that has prepared you well for this journey? I think I make maps.
Is this a family job? Like, has it been a tradition in your family?
No, I don't think so, because making maps is pretty difficult. You can't just... It's just things where you don't have to actually do something that you can put in the family. That's what I think, anyway.
Sorry. Oh, how do you know where everything is? Have you been here, or do you just talk to people?
I think I haven't been here because this is a dangerous place. At least not when it's been like this.
Why is it dangerous?
I'd rather not say.
What do you use to record, you know, maps? I mean, are you drawing on paper or are you doing something else? Like, how do you record your maps? What do they look like?
I draw it on, I was going to say animal skin, yes. Because that doesn't break.
Have you ever drawn a map on your own skin?
Yeah, I think actually I have tattooed maps all over my body.
So are you our guide, or are you just as much in the dark as we are?
I'm only your guide if you'll listen.
Do you feel like you don't get listens often?
I'd rather not say.
The maps on your body, what are they of?
I'd rather not say.
Oh, the maps on your body, are they ones that we would recognize? Like if we see them, do we see them as maps?
Some of them. I think looking at it, it looks like you don't understand all of it, definitely, but it looks like it's like the things you can understand what is, they are maps. And I don't think you can see where it is because I don't think many of you have traveled a lot before.
Are you an assassin?
No.
Isn't that what an assassin would say?
I'd rather not say.
How sure are you that your maps are accurate? And sorry, I stepped away for like 30 seconds, and I'm sure I missed that exact question. I was gone, but
As sure as anyone can be in this time.
Do you have any tattoos on parts of your body that you couldn't possibly reach?
Yes.
Those tattoos that you couldn't reach, was it another map maker that put them there?
I'd rather not say.
Because if it was another map maker, I mean, I know you're not admitting to anything as such, but if it was another map maker, that would imply that there's more than one map maker, and yet you were chosen for this journey. Do you have an explanation for that?
That's only speculation. Yeah, and also making maps is not just about drawing them.
Okay, what promise did the Queen make to you before this journey? Do you think she'll keep it? I think the Queen promised that I would have my own corner of the territory to call my own after we finish this journey. And whether I think she'll keep it or not, at this point, I am unsure.
which territory do you have your eye on?
The delta at the end of the river.
What are you going to do? Sorry. Go ahead, Mario.
Why are you unsure that she'll keep the promise?
Being a legendary assassin of her stature, sometimes you can't see through deception.
What do you want to do with that territory once it's yours?
Well, it is the primest farmland left in the area.
And do you know stuff about farming?
No, but I have friends that know quite a bit about farming.
Okay.
What have you done that for the Queen that got her to make that promise?
I'd rather not say.
Are any of us friends that you, or rather, let me rephrase. Are any of us the so-called friends that would help you with the farmlands?
Well, that remains to be seen, depending on how this journey goes.
Why were you in a position such that she had to make promises to you, as if you could turn her down or something?
Yeah, I'll plead the fifth on that one.
Are you in fact part of the royal family?
No, I'm not part of the royal family. But I mean, what is royal?
Who
What
currently
is royal?
I think royal is just power.
Donna, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I was just making sure I wasn't going to cut across anyone. Who currently rules the Delta?
Oh, the queen.
Is the Delta on the way?
No, the Delta is far behind us. But as far exactly where, you might need to ask the map maker that one.
How long have we been traveling thus far?
Long enough that home begins to be forgotten.
Is that like 2 weeks?
Could be. I don't know how this setting affects our memory.
Oh, that's me, right? How does the queen remind you of her status while on the journey? Okay. So I'm guessing. I mean, what's her status while on the journey? I think, well, it's kind of like she's parading around her lover, and she's parading around most of all the weapon she took from me when she conquered my tribe. It's kind of a ray gun. And she's parading that around and rubs my face in it that she's the winner and I'm not.
Does that make you angry?
Yes.
Where did you get a ray gun?
Oh, well, that's a long story and it would bore you.
I don't know what's a ray gun.
In what way does she humiliate me while parading me?
Yeah, just by parading you around like you're a toy or a pet or something. At least that's how I see it.
Is there something? Sorry, is there something physical about that parading where, when you say like a pet, for example, is there a leash for, or is there something that he has to wear that makes it look like a pet would?
No, I think it's just the way that she touches him all the time, and yeah.
Does that make you jealous that it's not you?
Yeah, I guess a little. It makes me more jealous because of the status of having this man, but not because of any personal connection.
Did she tell you why she wanted your ray gun, or why she bested it out of you?
Well, she wanted my territory, of course.
So does it pain you more that you lost the weapon, or does it pain you more that you see a weapon that you use to commit atrocities yourself?
It pains me more that I lost the weapon because it's a symbol of status. And it pains me that I lost my status and that I'm now in her retinue and have to tell her how much I adore her.
Have to. So did you ever really love her?
Is there any more left of your tribe? Oh, sorry.
I don't know. I mean, yes, I think I loved her once when we were younger. And I don't know, I think it remains to be seen about my tribe.
Are you related to her in any way, even distantly?
I don't know that. I don't care. Maybe I've claimed it.
In terms of your relationship as the conquered to the queen, do you pretend it's all good as long as you pay your taxes? Like, are you sort of more publicly cowed by her magnificence? What's the outward appearance?
But it's not about taxes. I think it's more like she won and I lost, and now I've got to be her servant.
Was this like a yearly ritual kind of thing, kind of like how in Black Panther they have to do that ritual to claim the title and you lost, or was this a random like I'm gonna fight you for this?
This was kind of a war. We were conquered.
What was your territory like?
It's the Delta, of course. My former territory. Good farmland.
Why on earth did you pick a fight with the fairy queen of assassins?
Because I had a ray gun and I thought I could win. And also I thought she was hot and I kind of wanted her to be my, but I'm not.
What's your tribe known? What was your tribe known for? Like exotic weaponry? I'm still hung up on the ray gun bit.
Our tribe was known for scavenging stuff from ruins, I think.
Do we know that was your ray gun? Like, do you announce it or do you just keep it to yourself?
No, I think those of you who have been with the queen for a longer time know that she took it from me. And I think she makes it known that it once belonged to me.
Do the ruins hide something that the queen doesn't know?
To who? Who does hide something? The royals?
The ruins in your ex-territory.
Oh, the ruins.
The ruins. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Probably. I'd rather
Do you
not
know what
answer.
it is?
Yeah, but I'm not telling you.
Have you tried to make friends with any of us?
Let me look. Yeah, I think I've tried to make friends with a map maker, maybe. He has interesting skills.
Are your people like, has your territory been completely claimed as and disseminated as part of our kingdom, or do you guys still kind of rule but as like a sub kingdom? Like, in other words, would you be like a duke or duchess type of thing, or would you just be like one of the people now?
I'm just one of the people. There's probably some sort of governor or something, but we're already subsumed into the kingdom.
Do you know that your kingdom has been promised to somebody else?
No, not yet.
Okay, you sometimes think you might be the queen's favorite. Why, and why does this worry you? So we're fairies. Most of us anyways. I can speak for myself. But most fairies don't have wings. Or those that do, they're fairly vestigial. They don't work very well. Maybe they can get themselves off the ground a little bit. But my wings are pretty solid. They're strong. And, that's a rare thing amongst our people. And so I can actually lift myself up above the trees and get a good view of the situation. Now, I don't think that's why the queen thinks I'm, that's why I think I'm her favorite. It's not just the fact that I've got this ability. I'm also pretty good, strategically. I'm also very good at listening to her and not taking it personally when she rails on me, as she rails on many others when she is in a bit of a funk or a mood. So she knows that I'm pretty good at listening. I have never knowingly, to her, spread her secrets or words. So I think she trusts me. And I think that's a huge deal. We're talking about the Queen of Assassins here, right? So she has eyes all over the place. If she knew that I was spreading her words, or if I had ever done so, then obviously she would know it, right? I mean, she would have to know it. And in my memory, and from what I'm telling you, I've never done so. So yeah, I think that's why she looks at me. And when she asked for us to come on the retinue, there was one person she asked for first, and that was me. I know this because I also have eyes in lots of places, and I saw this.
Are those literal eyes?
I prefer not to answer that question.
Are you part
Okay,
of a
no,
sleeper cell?
Am I part of what?
A sleeper cell.
Oh, great question. Obviously I can't answer such a silly question like that. So yeah, go ahead.
No. Did you have any more to say?
Well, part of the question is, why does this worry me? The reason why it worries me is because I was against this journey in the first place. I think this journey may be a suicide mission. We are going into extremely dangerous territory to broker some alliance. At least that's what she's told us. And we're going very, very far from home. And I was always against this, when I was giving her, my words of wisdom or, any of my recommendations, but she has not taken heed for any of that. So yeah, I'm her favorite, and she always asks me to go on these important missions, but it worries me because this mission, I think it's a bad idea.
Did she tell you the real reason?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Did she tell me the real reason? That's what I heard. No, she has not told me the real reason. Although, she's told me a couple of reasons. But, as time has gone on and I've done my filtering of truth and non-truth, as it were, I feel like I do not know the actual reason yet.
Who are we nominally at war with?
Who are we normally at war with?
Who are we nominally at war with?
Oh, nominally. I would say the humans. I mean, there's enough of them now. They breed fairly quickly. Feel free to X card me, but I think we eat them occasionally. I think they may eat us.
I would like to X card this. Sorry.
That's fine. I have no problem with that. As soon as I said it, I was like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with it.
How about, can it be, instead of like, obviously it's X carded, but like it's like succubuses, so you like to drain the energy from humans? Would that be
that's
okay?
Interesting. How about this? I think one thing that we find useful from them is they have certain ways of thinking that are different than ours, whether that's musically, creatively. Oh yeah, dreams. Like, I think we get ideas from their dreams. And so one of the things we do is hide up in the trees around some of their, villages, for example, or other places where we find them on the road. And when they're sleeping, yeah, we take advantage of their dreams. Now that kind of has really strong physical and mental effects on them. It stresses them out, right, in some ways, but it's very useful to us. And we don't do it all the time, but they're not 100% sure that we do this, but I think within some of their villages, some of their people are very anti-fairy because, some of their people, like, it's almost like part of their religion or part of their belief system that they know that we do things like this, and they don't like it.
So what's the point of this alliance, as far as you know?
This alliance that well, I think what she told me originally is she was asking advice on this other fairy kingdom that's on the other side of the jungle. Now, when I say the jungle, I'm not talking about like some trees. I'm talking about like hundreds and hundreds of miles, maybe 1,000 miles of pure jungle through this, huge land to the ocean that's on the other side. So we sit on one side where there's a sea or an ocean, and there's another side, and it's far. I've never seen it. I don't know if any of our people have ever seen it. We've just heard from other travelers and such, right? But there's supposedly a fairy kingdom there, and they are so far that they're different than us, different enough where she thinks that we can take advantage of, either their lore or maybe their physical characteristics or something. And from what I understand, she wants to broker some, alliance or maybe marry into the family or vice versa, or I don't know, something like that. But
if you're the queen's favorite, are you attracted to the consort, or do you absolutely hate the consort?
I mean, attracted is such an interesting term. As far as like romantically or physically, no, I'm not attracted to them. I think ever since I was young, I knew that I had these wings and I was different than most. And there were some people who had strong wings like me, and I would compete with them. And, I turned out to be the strongest, over time. And when I compete against somebody else with strong wings, I find that very, those fairies with the very strong wings, I find that attractive. So this consort, whatever.
Did she ever?
What do you know about this other fairy kingdom that you have not told our queen?
Just that, and these are rumors, mind you. It's old lore, and I've heard it from another old warrior who trained me in flight, because they also had strong wings. And this is from when I was very young. But my original master in flight, he told me that they are different enough from us that just like we subsume and eat from the dreams and even the memories of humans, they do something like that to us. Maybe not dreams, maybe not memories, but we are so distantly related that they may drain us of something. But I don't know if that's just, that could just be talk of the other, right? Who knows if that's real or not? Sabine, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. You said the queen told you secrets. Now, is there something that really troubles you that you can't tell everybody else about? You don't have to tell me what it is, but I want to know if you're troubled.
No, I'm not troubled.
Okay.
In other words, I will not tell you right now.
Okay.
I think I'm pretty good at looking like I am supporting the queen, though. I think for most people, they would look at me and go, that is a loyal subject. She is also always following. She's always, doing her duty. She has never questioned the queen when the queen gives an order. I don't think I've ever shown any of these things publicly. So even though, yes, in the queen's close circle, if she's asking me to be honest, I will be honest about my opinions. I will not, show any indecisiveness in public.
Do you have any enemies in the retinue?
Well, I mean, she's the queen of assassins, right? We wouldn't be living in this place if we didn't have that. Right, my friends?
So you're an assassin too, right?
Well, I mean, we're all assassins, whether we say so or not. Some of us just pretend not to be. I don't need to pretend.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
It's okay. If you have a question, feel free to ask. Did you have another question, Sabine?
Yeah, I'm muted. Sorry. About this assassin thing. Who are we assassinating all the time?
Oh, well, that I can't answer for you. I can answer who I assassinate. When the queen tells me to assassinate somebody, I assassinate them. You've seen this happen. That's what I do. That's part of my job.
Are the assassinations that you've done been mostly within the kingdom or outside the kingdom?
It's hard to tell. You've just seen her give orders, and I will go do a thing. Probably you've seen orders for both, I'm guessing. There are some that are in and some that are out. I don't think it would be unusual if you saw her order me to do one or the other.
What do you do that pleases the queen on this journey? Okay, I tend to do this in most games where I bring food into it. I am the queen's personal chef. And I'm the only one that knows certain recipes from her lineage, like even though I am half fairy, I was somehow the one selected to learn the recipes from her family lineage and can reproduce them pretty good, more so than even like natural fairy people can.
Are you related to the queen?
Some have rumored about that, but nothing conclusive.
Why do you think you're the one chosen to learn these? Like, why do you think?
I think because I'm just that good.
What is the horrible price of her favorite dish?
It would have to be from the Royal Menagerie of some of the last known specific animals that have managed to barely survive this post-apocalyptic world, and so her menagerie is supposed to be a safe haven for when we find these animals, but one of her favorite dishes uses meat from them.
Oh, so they're not dreams or thoughts or memories.
No. But she likes people to believe they are.
So one of her favorite dishes is an endangered creature that she has in her zoo. Do you, so to that extent, the fact that we do eat both, or we can eat both meat and dreams or memories, do you make dishes which combine these things sometimes?
Yes, though since I'm not 100% elven or fairy, it's a little bit more tasking for me to do it. So it's one of the reasons when she requires those types of dishes, either for herself or to share with her consort or anybody else she feels favorable that day. That's all I can do. So I can't normally help out when we're traveling with all the other duties that everyone's supposed to do, like,
And quick follow-up question, because you just slipped there and you said Elven. So maybe that's the other half here that we're talking about.
Possibly. But it's hard to tell with my features.
Sure, of course. But what would people like us, what would we think about the fact that you are half fairy and half elven?
Not too highly. And like I think in general like the fairy people are not very fond of like halflings in general. And I use the term halflings as a general term, not like the D&D halfling thing. And I think like maybe humans or others, they're more indifferent. And I think like there's not enough elves to go around to really form an opinion. But usually those, instead of it being like, the J.R. Tolkien types where they're like high, like pristine types of elves, they're like kind of like the beggar class.
What does the queen absolutely enjoy to eat? that the rest of the fairy kind finds absolutely repulsive?
That definitely is with human memories. Memories of childbirth.
Do you dream?
Not anymore.
But
What
have you
happened?
dreamed?
Yes, before I was chosen to be her personal chef.
What caused the dreams to stop? Do you know?
I prefer not to say.
Can you
But you're
describe? Oh,
sorry. So, but you're a poisoner as well as a chef, or is that just a rumor?
That is just a rumor, and a very malicious rumor. My food is good. No one will get sick from my food.
Yeah, that's not the question, right? Because poison can be good and they shouldn't get sick, they should get dead. So yeah, I guess I have my answer. Thank you.
Eric, did
I
you have
didn't
one?
say I'm not an assassin. I'm just saying my
well,
food is good, okay?
ironically, my question was about poisoning as well. It's
Oh.
just synchronicity, right? So carry on.
I mean, if you frame the question a different way, I might be able to answer differently.
You know
Are
what?
you an assassin?
Yes, I am an assassin.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so have you said that you can't do anything else other than cooking when you have to cook? Have people accused you of slacking off on the journey?
Yes. And I'm not too sure if that's because I'm a chef or because I'm only half fairy and possibly half elf. But I never explained why, because most of the time most people don't listen anyways and make their own conclusions.
So, quick question. What ingredient do you have me get from the top of the tree line?
Ooh. It would have to be. It would be the dew from the top of the tree line. The water, like where the water is the most potent before it gets filtered down through. Which is a very finicky task.
For most, not so much for me.
Sure.
What do you do for the queen that anyone else can do, and why does she make you do it? I think I dress her. She has a big wardrobe. I mean, some say it's half of the luggage that we're taking on this trip. Yeah, and she makes me dress her, even though she could probably do it herself or get anyone else to do it.
Do you enjoy your job?
I guess I get some nice hand-me-downs, right? Cast-offs. I certainly hear a lot of gossip. And after a while, people just ignore me. And I'm very ignorable at the best of times. So
how did you get that job? I mean, you seem to be an assassin, probably quite a good one if you're ignorable. But how did you get the queen's personal dresser?
She caught me in her wardrobe one time. And this is her way of being cruelly efficient with her punishment.
Do you also dress me?
Sure, why not? I mean, just to add to my ignominious duties, why don't I dress the consort as well? Sure.
Do
Why were
you
you
like the
stealing?
consort? Oh, sorry.
No.
Do you like the consort?
I don't know. I mean, maybe, but really, no. I mean, I don't know. I'm a bit confused about it because, you know, when you spend so much time with someone, and then someone else gets all their attention whenever they arrive in the room, it can be a bit, you know, frustrating. I'm not jealous at all.
Because it would be useful to have some more concrete visuals for this narrative, can you describe her last, most like striking outfit and what it looked like?
So I think the centerpiece of this is a kind of crown that looks like a kind of a haloed sun with these glittering pearls on them that look like dew in the morning sunlight. And then that is kind of completed with this flowing gown that is just like beads of pearls and this really insanely thin gold cloth.
What have I done?
Oh, sorry. Go on. Why were you stealing from the Queen of Assassins' wardrobe in the first place?
I was not stealing. I was just in there when I shouldn't have been.
So what were you doing there?
I mean, I was stealing something, obviously, but or was I? I might have been planting something, but you know, a good assassin never tells the whole truth or anything like the whole truth.
What
If you
have
hear, so sorry, go ahead.
what have I told you that makes you think that I'm not loyal for the like I'm not loyal to the queen?
I think you have asked on numerous occasions what has happened to previous consorts. And not just, you know, their fate, but also how long it took the queen to start to go sour on them, how much opportunity you would have to be alone by yourself. Frankly, I'm surprised you haven't tried to escape already.
You being asked that question implies you have some tenure. I don't know if you're allowed to say this, but who among us has been in her service the longest?
Who amongst us has been in her service the longest? I think our fantastic flying fairy has been around the longest and is pretty much the only real flyer left in the kingdom.
Are you a fairy?
Of course. I mean, I'm kind of insulted that you would ask if I'm a fairy.
What usually happens with the consorts?
I mean, don't tell the consort this because they really shouldn't hear this. Slowly, over time, every dream they ever had is taken away from them. And finally, when everything that they dreamt for is not even a distant memory, they kind of fade away into nothing.
Do you think, is there anything you think you can do for the queen better than just dressing her, or better than anyone else? Let's say.
I mean, I'm the best assassin on this trip.
What makes you say that?
I mean, if you look at my kill list, it's the longest, and it includes the most glowing commentary from the queen. Yeah, so I mean, qualitatively, quantitatively, I'm hitting it out of the park, whatever a park is.
Is it normal to have a list?
Yeah, I mean, everyone, the queen has a list, and she checks it twice. And of course, we have a list. How? I mean, first of all, fairies are known braggarts. And secondly, we just need to keep track of who's been killed.
So it sounds like assassination operates by almost game-like rules, like a John Wick kind of thing.
Well, I mean, sometimes people come to us looking for contracts out on people, and contracts are delicious, obviously. How else do you get a human to willingly give up their dreams? But sometimes the queen has a whim. She doesn't like the way someone looked at her or whatever. So, people get on the list for all sorts of reasons.
Have you heard any rumors about people killing anyone that's not on a list?
I mean, that would be very naughty. I mean, we can kill people who aren't on the list, just, but then people will talk and wonder, and we could get involved in something that we're not prepared for.
You probably notice a lot in this retinue. What's the most salacious thing you've noticed that if it gets out, it'll cause some scandal or havoc?
The thing that will cause most havoc is, well, the queen hates it when everyone isn't utterly in love with her. And by utterly, we mean is in love with someone else. And someone being in love with someone else is, I mean, essentially a death sentence, right? And I mean, they try to avoid each other on shifts, right? But I mean, it seems so obvious that two people in the queen's retinue are in love with each other. But I mean, I shouldn't like to spread gossip and rumors.
Sorry, so the rumor is that their love is mutual, it sounds like?
That's the rumor. I mean, and that would be two people getting a death sentence, and that would be very unwise.
Hey, another question. You probably noticed that I'm slinking around eyeing the ray gun, right? How do you react to that?
I mean, I'm in a terrible glass house to be throwing stones at people, trying to steal stuff. So, I mean, you don't think that she hasn't noticed? I think she wants you to try for it, right? That's the whole way she, puts your status down. That's the whole way she is so amazingly magnificent, is the way she just has your weapon right there in front of you, rubbing your nose in it. This is just the way the queen operates. I'm not going to warn her. I would just get, I mean, I would be afraid of giving her a headache. She would eye roll so much.
Okay. So you don't know that by doing this, I consider you a possible ally. Or do you?
An ally to get your ray gun back? I mean, that's ridiculous.
Do you like anyone in the in our group?
I mean, yeah, we're all, some kind of extended family. We're all fairies. I mean, there are some of you that love less.
You're not all fairies.
Well,
True.
How could I forget? So yeah, I mean, keep your enemies close and your friends further away. Is that some kind of old human saying? I never get those right. It doesn't make any sense. Kill your enemies. Keep the people who are not your enemies kind of alive. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. I love you all equally, surely.
Do you know how to pickpocket? And if you do you still pickpocket?
I mean, pockets are some kind of human invention that died out with the apocalypse. I mean, it's a very dark apocalypse without any pockets. Yeah. Holsters, I guess we have for ray guns, and scabbards for weapons, and little satchel bags. Yeah, I can pick all of those things, but not pockets.
Are you happy to be on this journey?
It's terrible. I mean, like, the one time the queen doesn't take advice from her most esteemed advisor is this: we're stuck in this terrible boat going up this terrible river 1,000 miles across this terrible jungle to visit a tribe of terrible fairies who are going to kill us all, or something. I don't know. I would much prefer to be back in palace, sunning myself on the delta banks, right? That's where I belong to be, right?
All right. So before I flip to the next question, what we'll do is we'll take a 5-minute bio break. It is 45 after the hour here. So we'll come back around 5 after the hour.
I have to go.
Okay. Oh, then we will figure out a way to murder you. Probably, right? Because we're assassins.
But it was fun playing with your character.
Thanks, Maria, for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye, Maria.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Oh, man. All right. We'll have to murder her in story when we come back. All right. 5 minutes after the hour.
Cool.
Oh, I'm gonna try see if I'm really annoyed by this lamp. I'm gonna see if this Christmas tree next to me is better. Oh, that's creepy. Well, you know what? Screw it. I'll leave it like
Creepy's not
that.
so bad.
Yeah, actually, no. It's actually just a bit better. At least it's not. It doesn't look like I have the sun next to me.
So I'm thinking of trying something here. Since I know we've gone one round, which is like what, 7 or 8 questions. I know we have quite a bit to go, and we have about less than an hour left. I'm actually curious now that Maria had to leave, and we can kind of use that as a some kind of situation, whether it's I think maybe her character, like he was murdered or something, but we don't know who it was, right? Or we don't know the circumstances. We're all assassins, right? That could be fun. So maybe something like that, but then maybe we can do like a quick round where we each answer a question kind of in the context of like what happens in the short term or around that situation maybe. And then we can kind of jump back into the game in the normal pace or something like that. What do you guys think? Yeah. So we'll see when everybody comes back. We'll query the crowd. We'll just wait for Sabine and Pat.
I'm really enjoying this game. I definitely need to buy it when it comes out.
Like I said, the only thing I don't like about it is it's not out.
I wonder how much sale you have generated for them, Tomer. It must be quite a bit.
Maybe a little bit. All right. I should get commissions, right?
Totally.
$10 per queen. All right. Well, I mean, they did send me this really beautiful.
I know, you get to
set.
have the pretty cards.
I've gotten to play with it once. And I think I have some feedback. Like, I think the font could be a little clearer and some other, like, very surface level stuff. But the queen art is gorgeous. The only thing that I would want is I would want more queen art. Like, I think it would be useful to have, like, people making custom queen art, especially because all of these are basically, I mean, they're a very diverse set of looking cultures, you know, of, like, what you would know from Earth, I guess, you know, so you get this kind of diverse set of women queens. But I mean, there definitely should be a queen bee. There should definitely be some kind of like space bee.
Is there like a cyberpunk queen?
Not in this one. These are all like kind of fantasy-ish feeling. Like they all feel kind of like old school. None of these look sci-fi. I think that would be fantastic. I think there should be like totally like a RuPaul style, like dope drag queen. That would be a dope setting. Like you could just customize any of that, right? Like I'm not saying like they should print those out, but I think it would be dope if like there was like this public resource of queens.
Man, I really need to play the drag queen. Oh, that would be so cool.
I think like for Jason's game, and Jason played with us at Big Bad Con, but that was that first experimental like big group game where we were bees. In fact, the next day we were sitting down, you know, and just talking about some other stuff, and he's like, "So that game, are you always like bees?" I'm like, "No, that's the furthest thing you normally are in this game." But
I'm sad I missed that. I did Big Bad Con.
What? How come we didn't hang out? Oh my god.
But yeah, like I got into a couple of games and everything. It was my first like Big Bad Con, so it was like.
To be fair, the For the Queens that I ran were not scheduled games.
Oh, okay.
They were all like late night in the lobby downstairs.
Yeah, everyone. Unfortunately, on that Saturday, I was really unwell, so like it kind of messed up a lot of like what I was. Yeah, everyone was hanging out in the lounge.
Yeah.
All night long, and I was like, I'd rather sleep in a nice, comfy bed.
Yeah. You were taking care of your body.
Yeah.
We were definitely not. All right. So my question, now that we're all back, is Maria just had to leave, right? So what I was thinking was, because we're going through questions fairly slow, which is not a problem, but one thing we can do just to change pace temporarily or like short term is to have Maria's character leaving be an incident, right? Maybe he was assassinated. We don't know by who. So there's this mysterious assassination, which of course could be anybody. And then maybe we can go through one quick round of questions where we do it like fairly fast pace. And, you know, that way we're all able to answer questions. And maybe we try to answer the questions in a way which relates it to the situation, like the fact that we wake up with this murdered person amongst us, right? And so we can quickly go through a round, and then we can kind of return to our normal kind of game after that. What do you guys think?
I like it. It's like the Tilton fiasco.
Okay, so should we, this is my question though, is should we do this where each person answers the question and people are not allowed to ask clarifying questions? Because that would slow the pace down. Or should we do 2 minutes per person where they can answer and people can ask questions, but once the 2 minutes are up, you move on?
I was thinking only allowed to ask one clarifying question if you have a question.
Okay, then I will say this. How about this for mechanics? Only the next person in line can ask a clarifying question. And that way it just kind of like mechanizes like the, okay, let's try it, see what happens. We're on the forefront of for the Queen experimentation here, right? Okay, so let me reshare my screen here. Just a second.
And we're still recording, right?
Of course we are. Let's share that card. So we were here. And now we're going to go starting with Eric, who is next in line. And we're going to start in our quick mode. So, you know, we have now found, you know, maybe I don't know the circumstances, and we will find this out through play. So we don't know how Maria's body was found or who found it or what. But that is the background circumstances here. So you can answer your question to frame around that and kind of tell us a little bit of what that scene looks like or not. But let's start. Oops, sorry. Let's start.
Ha!
Ooh.
What did you bring with you to protect the Queen? He asked loadedly. Okay. I am not a fairy. I'm a synthetic humanoid from the time between civilizations, like unearthed in the jungle somewhere, which is what makes you a good guardian, because you're, you know, maybe not sleepless, but, you know, otherwise incorruptible. And I actively feed on the ambient radiation that characterizes this blasted hellscape we live in. And so what I brought with me is like an aura in which the sort of like slow sickening that probably afflicts most of the rest of the globe is sort of like held at bay when I'm nearby, because I'm like chowing down on it. I like that, but I don't know if it answers the question about the assassination very well.
It does not need to. But what you can do to flavor part of your answer is you could say, it has not helped in saving this poor individual, which I stumble across. And you can still leave a lot of blank spaces there. So like, you don't have to answer the question of, you know, exactly what the situation looks like, where his body is or where it's found. Like you could just say you stumble across his body.
Oh.
And then we can leave it for the rest of the people to do stuff. But,
can I though? Because it actually
yeah,
leaves a little creative space.
Do whatever.
Okay. No, which is a relevant detail because the murdered consort appears to have been killed by a short-range, high-intensity blast of radiation, such as that would be released from either my power core or a ray gun.
Now, the next person in line, which in this case is going to be Leandro, may ask a clarifying question if they want, or they could say pass, in which case I'll just give them the next card.
Does everyone know you have this force field, or were you just brought in as kind of like, he's just a guard, but in actuality, you have this force field protecting people?
Well, let's see. So it seems as though our winged friend is a confidant and therefore probably knows. Well, maybe someone else should know. Let me just run over our people here real quick. And our friend from the Delta, or our friend our friend from the Delta, who would be familiar with this kind of ruin retrieve technology and therefore more likely to recognize it. So those two.
The Queen thinks more highly of you than you do of yourself. How do you know this? Huh. Well, this is tricky because I don't even have a character yet. Let's see. I think it's more highly than you do so.
And keep in mind, you can always X the card and get a new card.
Yeah. I think I want to answer it. It's just the tricky part is tying it to the murder, because what the Queen used of me in the past, it was kind of a simple-ish sort of job that only required me to be in the right place at the right time. So I've always considered myself as kind of just a pawn, or even just an object that was used by the Queen for her dastardly means, so to speak. And so I've always been unsure of why I was even brought in this retinue in the first. I have an inkling, but I'm not sure myself. But that was before we went to this retinue. I think it is because I was brought to this retinue that the Queen is telling me, no, you're more important. You weren't just some fairy changeling that I used to winkle this tribe out of their territory. No, you're more than that. Hence why you're part of this retinue. And yeah, I think I don't know how it tied to the murder. I think it's sorry.
And just to clarify, you don't need to necessarily take that answer and clarify it to the murder. What you can also do, I'm just like, spitballing here. What you can also do is just be the person who then discovers something about the crime, if you will, or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's I think I was meant to call in the morning that was discovered. Like, I was called in by the Queen, but whatever we had to discuss, she was obviously in distress because, for one thing, the consort was found in her bed, dead, and she was. So I'd like to think she was just distraught enough that it didn't matter who she talked to, but I kind of felt like because she didn't take it out on me, that felt like, no, I was more important than I'm probably being led to think.
Okay, so clarifying question by Mikhail if you want, or pass.
Yeah, no, I think I'm good. Well, that was surprising. You're considered beautiful by almost everyone you meet. How does the Queen make you question that perception? Well, I mean, she was showing off the concubine at every single chance she got. Yeah, that's it, I guess.
Okay, and Pat, if you want, you can ask a clarifying question.
The fact that the queen made you challenge your own perception that you are beautiful to everybody else, and that she held this consort above everybody else, wouldn't that make you a prime suspect in this murder?
If it would be if there wasn't any more obvious reasons for wanting the concubine dead, then perhaps. Certainly a motive.
When did you know you were in love with the queen? I knew I was in love with the queen when she made me that promise to give me that part of the kingdom, the Farmerville Delta. That's how I knew truly I was in love with the queen, because she doesn't make promises to anybody.
How appropriate. Guess who gets to ask a clarifying question?
Yeah, okay. So, won't it put a bit of a crink in your plans when one of your advisors is now lying dead in the queen's bed?
Nah, the consort was that's not an advisor. That was a plaything. It was a toy for the queen. And we've seen her, disregard her old toys before, and they aren't remembered.
Sorry. The queen is responsible for the death of someone you loved. Who and what happened? Yeah, okay. So I guess, the queen is responsible. I think she's responsible for the death of my brother. And she's responsible for that because she paraded him around as her consort so that somebody would go and assassinate him. I mean, he seemed to like that in some way, but I was not that very cool. The whole thing, and now he's dead, and somebody killed him, and it wasn't me, but it was my gun, or at least one of that was my ray gun. I hate her. No, I love her, but I also hate her.
So, sorry, this is a clarifying question. Are you saying that Maria's character was your brother? Or are you saying, yeah. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
You overheard, when you overheard the queen, tell me, because I saw you. When you overheard the queen tell me that I was to murder your brother. Keep in mind, this is a while ago. This was not last night. This was quite some time ago. But when you heard that, did that change your views of our relationship?
Of the relationship between you and me, you
yes.
mean? Yeah, it did. I think it did, because you didn't do it.
Okay. You saw the queen do something terrible to keep the retinue safe. What was it? Did you come to respect her more or less afterwards? So the queen was not in, you know, she wasn't next to the consort when the consort died, from my perspective. Or there was, let's say there was opportunity. There was opportunity for her to be elsewhere. And that's because I was there with her. At least, you know, you can trust me. I was there with her. And we were out in the forest. I had told her, I came back and I told her, hey, I had seen a fairy that I did not recognize. Like even their markings, their coloration, their dress was unusual to me. Now, I don't know if we're close enough to be on the edge of their kingdom, you know, this fairyland that we're going to, but I did see a fairy who's been following us, and I wanted to show the queen. And it was during that time, you know, that we heard something. We heard a scream from our camp. And it's, you know, that scream, it was obvious. It was obviously the consort. And I think the queen, you know, we had just identified that fairy. We'd said, hey, come out. That fairy came out to greet us, right? We had gotten that far when we heard the scream. And I think the queen thought we were under attack, and that, you know, and maybe it had something to do with the fact that she heard the consort's voice. I mean, our queen is emotional sometimes, although, you know, she is an assassin, so she usually knows how to control that emotion, usually. But she reached out and she ripped that fairy apart. I mean, she stole its memories. We do not usually eat of each other's dreams or memories. That is, that's beyond. I've never heard of anybody, of any fairy, eating each other's memories. That is pretty horrific. And I saw her do it. And she was doing it for the protection of our retinue. But now I'm not sure if, you know, coming back to camp and finding out what we found, maybe it wasn't those fairies that were attacking us. So I don't know if she's just made a huge faux pas or what. So.
Trying to think of something really good. Are you going to tell anybody?
No, I will let the queen say what needs to be said.
Ooh. When was the last time the queen showed you real kindness? I think this was... I think it was before... right before she took over the Delta. She had asked for not one of, like, because we were so far away now from to get anything from the menagerie, and we'd already used up whatever I had brought for that. She asked for a delicacy that was on the memories and dreams. But she had asked me to gather those memories and dreams from someone in the retinue. And I did this. And that was the last time she was very thankful and grateful, and showed it by a kiss before she enjoyed this dish. And most of the time she usually shares whatever she asks with her consort. This was one of the few times where she kept it to herself, and she specifically told me to not let anybody know.
Last night, the Queen asked you to prepare a special breakfast in that same way, only for herself. What was it, and did you get any impression that she was excluding her consort for a specific reason?
It was a breakfast similar to what she had asked before the Delta thing, and that was it was kind of like her what's the word I'm looking for? Not tradition. When people have a thing they like to do for like before every battle or something, or before every ritual, yeah. It was like a ritual thing. So it kind of surprised me that she was asking this for as a breakfast thing, because to my knowledge we weren't anywhere near civilization to it. The difference was, though, of the person she asked me to get the memory from was from the consort. And it's known that if you feed off of your own memories and dreams, it can cause like a backlash. So I knew, so it didn't bother. Obviously, I was like, oh, okay, it's good for the consort not to share this, because then that would be bad for the consort in the morning, not knowing that the consort was going to die over that evening, because it took all night for me to create this dish.
When did you know you would never forgive the Queen, and why? When she would not give me due credit for my assassinations. I've been to this realm before, this other fairy realm, and I killed their king. But she would not enter my name or his name in the book. And that, for me, is a breach of tradition such that I could not forgive.
So I think there are two questions. One is it that there would have been benefits accrued to you by that assassination that you were deprived of, or is it just a matter of score, like you being offended that it's not official that you got it?
I think it's mostly a sense of professional pride. Keeping score is just one of the things we fairy assassins do. And I'm not sure there's. Sorry, I would just say I'm not sure there's any, actual benefit to, reaching the last line on the ledger or something like that.
To what extent is it sort of commonly known that this happened, or is it literally between you and her, and to everyone else you're just a schmuck who failed to kill their king?
I think even the fact of the mission, that the mission took place, is unknown to people, because when missions are sent out, you start the line on the ledger, right? That such and such a person was sent on a mission, and not even that part was completed. It was completely off book.
Okay, so we've gone, I think, one round, right? This was, I guess, in quick mode. What do you guys say? Should we just continue the game as normal?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. Then let's do it.
I have just a quick idea in order to not bog things down, because I know we all play a lot of indie games and we all like to ask questions because it's awesome. Could we just do instead of the next person just asking a question, just go through the order and everybody gets to ask one question at most?
That sounds good. Yeah, let's do that. And that way, we each get a clarifying question, basically, right? So when we go through the order real quick, you can say pass if you don't have anything. Worst case scenario, if you say pass and it goes through the whole line and you're like, oh, I actually have something, and you hadn't asked a previous question, just go for it and tell us, But as long as everybody gets a question, that'll be good. And I think that'll be cool. All right, let's do it. So Eric's up, and I think I put the next question there.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was typing kind of a meta question, but I think it's a longer discussion about best way to play, and is too long to.
We can talk about it during a debrief at the end.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
Yeah.
You suspect this journey isn't just about diplomatic negotiations. What else do you believe is going on, and why? Okay. So to reincorporate any threads that people have already added to avoid complicating things too much, let's see. What I'm doing in my mind is going over other players and things they've said already and trying to find one that I can attach to that isn't diplomatic relations. I'm just trying to figure it out here. So the tricky bit,
So maybe it's got something to do with the fact that the king was assassinated. Maybe she wants to make something of that.
So I was preoccupied with that because it was a recent introduction. The things that occurred to me off the bat were things like, well, he was killed, so he's being replaced. But then I imagine her trying to ingratiate herself with whoever the new monarch or head of state is. But that is diplomatic relations, right? So it's sort of trying to figure out how to avoid that particular goal.
I got something. Maybe
Please.
maybe Donald's character observed something during his mission. He saw something important, and she knows she has to have that. That's why we're here, and that's why she doesn't want the mission known.
Oh, wait, I know. Okay. I forgot the queen can reincarnate, right? Which is from way back, but true. If the queen can reincarnate, the implication is that the method of reincarnation is not exactly her choice. So what it means is that she has to like go forth and die horribly in a specific way, maybe in a specific place, such that she will reincarnate either at all or in a form she wants. So maybe she has to drag her entire retinue out into the jungle to a destination as yet undetermined by the story, and die in a way that will take all of our lives. But in so doing, she will become a newer, better, stronger version of herself, maybe up to and including having more territory or authority or a piece of knowledge maybe that she didn't already have. So
or at least that's what you believe.
Right, yeah.
Which is great. I think it's awesome.
That is what I believe is going on, and I believe she will come away with a prize like... I think we can leave that open, unless she wants to reincarnate. And plus it dooms everybody, so that seems to work.
How did you come to suspect of this? Is there precedent, or is there inklings in the journey itself?
So it has to do with her disregarding certain elements. No, actually, so as a bodyguard, of course, I'm always on the lookout for like the terrain ahead. And so I believe she's deliberately not heeding some of the maps we have access to, or treating hazards differently than I would have expected. And so I'm suspicious that she's not really trying to preserve her own life, which is something a bodyguard would probably pick up on as kind of strange, having my orders ignored, or at least my suggestions ignored.
And quick circle. So we're going to go in table order, and if you don't have a question, then just say pass. So Mikhail, you're up.
Yeah. Given that you know that, how did you see the queen's reaction to the concubine's death differently than the others?
So I know the queen to be, as far as we can tell, a fickle, appetitive, and extremely self-centered person who presumably would be on the hunt for another consort almost by the time she'd tired of the last one. And what's noteworthy is that she seems so preoccupied that I don't think she's expressed the least interest in anyone else since the death, which is bizarre. Something is on her mind.
Yeah, this is kind of a twofold question. I'm sorry if I'm overstepping my bounds asking like a twofold question, but being a guard, a bodyguard for a queen that can reincarnate, like doesn't that feel kind of useless in a way? And then the second part of my question is, since you're in love with somebody in the retinue, how does that make you feel knowing that they're going to have to die too in order for this to come true?
So the first answer is that although the queen can reincarnate, it doesn't mean that she always will or wants to, right? It could range between being painful and inconvenient in the extreme to perhaps risky, because if she should be killed in a way other than maybe the ritualistic time and place of her choosing, perhaps the result is not at all what she wants. So there's still something to be guarded. And the second answer, let's see. So I think it's because I don't actually approve of this plan. That means I don't necessarily suffer from ambivalent feelings about it. So I don't necessarily want everyone in the retinue to die.
Okay, so now please tell us, who are you in love with?
Yes, I was trying to think about that one. So I feel that, boy, character names would really help here. I think probably the dresser works out well because it puts me in a situation in which I have to avoid someone relatively close to the queen's person at specific times of the day, which means that I could even not be in the royal bedchamber, say at night or whatnot, which means that if the consort was murdered and I didn't do it, then I could be afflicted with a certain guilt that I allowed my emotions to interfere with my professional conduct.
I'm going to pass.
I did have one and it went right off my head.
You can pass for a second if Donna's got one, and then we can go back.
Do you words? Do you have an idea who would have killed the consort?
Well, given our list of suspects, obviously the answer about Court would be not me. And it's pretty difficult to say internally because it feels like we have a short list of suspects, right? I actually don't know what the game sort of wants us to do with like unsolved or unknown facts, and so I'm trying to figure out the degree to which I should be like, it was me or it was definitely not me. So I will demur.
I'm going to be entirely self-centered and wonder when you fell in love with me.
Yes. So if the two things I know about your character are that you are apparently an exceptional assassin, which I assume is known by most people, even if you didn't get credit for the king of the other fairies, and that you've been given the duty of dressing the queen, but not being like someone who's particularly good at dressing people. Like, are you fashionably inclined as well, or is that just demeaning?
I think the queen's sense of style is overwhelming, and I am just following her instructions for the most part. But you know, I'm a quick study, I guess.
Oh, okay. So in that case, I think it would have to be perhaps out of a sort of like starstruck quality of being sort of impressed with your professional skills. I don't know if it's necessarily a mature or emotionally intimate infatuation. It may just be that I'm like, wow, as a bodyguard, because damn, because I spent all of my time thinking about people trying to like breach security, and like it seems like you'd be very, very good at that.
What makes the queen beautiful in your eyes? God. I mean, I think the queen is beautiful to me because of her ruthlessness, I'd say. Appreciate that in a monarch, especially if you're going to be a queen of assassins. And when she's just, when she's when she's doing her job, basically, which is, ruling over every one of y'all, including myself. I don't know. That's kind of intimidating and strident, and it's just, you dress for the job, you go for it. And she went for Fairy Queen of Assassins, and she rocks the part. So, find that quite lovely.
All right, Miguel.
Pass.
What was the most ruthless thing you've seen the queen do that was absolutely beautiful?
Sorry, say the last bit again. The internet dropped there a bit.
What was the most ruthless thing you've seen the queen do that you considered absolutely beautiful?
Oh, I think when it wasn't death, it wasn't, it wasn't killing someone. That's pedestrian. Anyone can kill anyone. It's when she brought along a survivor from most recent conquest and dangled in front of her sibling in a manner most demeaning, and just brought her along to this retinue for no real reason other than to just rub in their face that no, their territory is gone. And the thing is, I know this, but they don't know it. Their territory is going to be sold off to someone else, and that's just I don't know. That's just neat.
Okay, it's me, right? So what I wanted to know is, I guess I don't have to ask you how you felt about winkling the delta away, but how do you do it? By trickery or betrayal or something like that?
It was a long con. I think. I describe myself as a changeling, and basically that in your tribe, some human boy, let's say, was stolen and replaced by me. Now, the thing with changelings is that, at least changelings here, how they work as employed by the Queen of Assassins is that, yes, they are fairy kids, but they have to act as humans, but also from childhood, they also know that they're fairies and they're there for a purpose. So it's a weird double think where some days I'm just a part of this tribe that collects ray guns. Right? But always in the back of my mind, I know I'm learning everything about this place so I can sell it out to this queen of ours. And now maybe to you it looked like, that she won that tribe, as conquest and whatnot. But what you didn't know, what you probably surmised because you recognized me in this retinue probably, is that I had given her all that I know about that tribe. So she knew how to hit you. She knew what sort of weaknesses to press. And that was thanks to me. I've been there all this time just to give the territory to her, not you. You're never going to get back. Sorry.
Do you recognize me as the small child whose tribe you sold out 30 years ago?
Maybe. I think so. I think. No, I definitely think so. I think. Actually, no. I think I probably not. I think I don't know that I've been doing this for. I thought the Raygun tribe was my first job, but But I think I don't even realize how ruthless a queen was that I've been used again and again to do this sort of thing. Just put on a different...
Almost like you don't remember. Almost.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't recognize you. You're just her closest friend who can fly up to trees. I'll look at you. Sure, we can't fly up to trees. You have to rub it in. But yeah, that's just who you are to me.
Have you ever eaten any of my baked goods?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think after years of being part of some other tribe, that means I'm much more, I don't know, open to eating anything else. Like, I wouldn't say no to some baked goods, I guess.
What's the cruelest thing that the Queen has done to you on this trip? And no, that's it, I think.
I think it kind of goes back to the other the question answered, which is that I thought I was just this little spy that she's using, and I respect her for that. And I mean, because that's a cool ass move to do. But she brought me in this clearly important retinue, where clearly I'm gonna do something important. So nothing can go wrong. I mean, she considered me important enough to bring to this negotiation. Like, she's not keeping things from me. No. So the fact that she didn't just throw me away, even though I could see how ruthless she could be, I mean, that's cool. I mean, I'm just glad to be here.
So if you find her ruthlessness beautiful, but presumably Fairy Queen of Assassins carries a certain rubric for ruthlessness as part of the job description, have there been like less ruthless Queens of Assassins? Like, is there like a noble side to the order? You know what I mean? Like, is she unusually ruthless?
I think when you're a Fairy Queen of Assassins, you don't get that by your mother passing that title on to you. I definitely think this is a queenship stained in blood, and there's just been others that have not been up to snuff.
Got it.
So I'm about to pass the next question, but I am also warning you that we are about to hit the alarm. One of my questions is, do we want to finish one more round where maybe we do the quick mode so everyone gets one more question, but the only clarifying question is maybe like the next one? Otherwise, I think we're going to have this one round for Mikhail's question, and we'll probably run out of time.
I like the quick mode. That way we all get to answer one more
so
question.
We're going to go back into quick mode. So Mikhail, you got this new question, and then whoever's next, in this case, Pat, will get a clarifying question, and then we'll keep moving.
And does that mean we're not doing the under attack card at all, basically?
We will.
Which is fine.
We're going to do this last round, and then we're moving to the Queen is under attack card.
Yeah, the Queen once said to me that she doesn't understand me. But yeah, the Queen gave you a compliment once. What was it, and why have her words stayed with you? And the compliment one was that she doesn't understand me. I don't understand you, was the compliment. And why has it stayed with me? Because she has since then never let me stray away from her more than a few minutes. It's hard to forget those words, even it's been a few years and I can remember all this time. Keep watching me.
This journey seems to be taking an inordinate amount of time to complete. Are you purposely leading us astray on this?
I'd rather not answer that question.
What makes the Queen ugly in your eyes? I think the fact that the queen does not let her deeds do the talking, but rather her possessions and her trophies make her look ugly in my eyes. She's a master assassin, and that should be enough to make everybody beautiful. But yet she feels the need to prance out consorts in beautiful clothing and delicious food, like she has something else to prove.
Huh. I'm sorry, I don't have a question. Okay. You're considered ugly by almost everyone you meet. How does the queen make you question that perception? Okay, so I guess it's mostly because I'm contrast to my brother, who is really a beauty, who's really got all the beauty in our family. I got everything else. I'm muscular, but that's about the only good thing about it. I'm small, I'm squat, I'm just bristling with hair everywhere. I have tusks. I'm not pretty. I've always knew this. I always knew this. And the queen makes me question that perception because, well, looking at the queen, I can see what real ugly is. It's not tusks or warts or stuff like that. It's just what she is.
So we heard your opinion of why. It did ask, how does the queen make you question that perception? Oh, because you see, yeah, no, that sounds great. So my question to you is, how do other people consider me ugly, but you are able to look past that?
I think it's just the fact that you're different a bit. Maybe you're not to be able to fly with your wings. Your wings are strong, but your body is kind of slender, maybe even thin, emaciated. But I think the fact that you're so unusual, that kind of makes you beautiful. The fact that you're able to fly. I will never be able to fly. I have this one stubbly wing, and well, yeah, you're pretty.
The queen lights a fire in you. What is it? So, the queen has literally, she's pretty powerful. I don't know if you guys know this, because you guys are so kind of obsessed with this whole assassin stuff, which is great. I mean, that's our culture, right? Don't get me wrong. I get it. Assassins, that's a big deal. I'm an assassin, I know. But our queen has a lot more power than most of our people, and she has used that to her advantage. And one of the things she has given me is she has lit a literal, magical fire within me, so that I am more immune and protected from memory or dream stealing. Now, look, not all of us people, almost none of our people are able to steal dreams from each other. I mean, humans are one thing, they're weak, right? And when they're sleeping, especially, I mean, that's just food on the ground, right? But for a fairy to take memories or dreams from another fairy, that's a whole different level. And she's pretty good at it. And she's worried that there are others that are also pretty good at it. So she has lit a fire in me, a protection spell, which prevents me from having my memories removed.
When did you find out that I could technically do that in the sense of food after the Delta battle. And what did how
Yeah.
did that make you feel towards me?
That you could also protect yourself from this memory stealing, right? I found out about it after our second loop. I mean, we haven't been going on one journey from our land to their lands. Like, we've gone in circles about 5 times. I mean, most of you guys don't know this because your memories have been stolen, but you know, me and the cook, we do. There was a lot more of us when we first started, by the way. I mean, this is the last dregs, right? But you know, that's where we're at. So I realized it on the second loop.
You think of someone in this retinue as the queen's favorite. Who? What makes you think of this? Unlike most, I really didn't think of the consort as her favorite, even though she paraded him around and everything. I actually thought it was the map maker because she was constantly having meetings with the map maker, and considering what I know and what her advisor knows, it doesn't make any sense since we're, like just said, we're doing these loops. So, and she has all that memory and all that knowledge. So what's the reason for that other than maybe she actually really enjoys the map maker's time?
What memory of the mapmaker do you know that she has stolen?
She's stolen, and she made me make this into a very sweet dessert. She's stolen the memory of the map maker's lover.
Why do you think the queen trusts you enough to bring you on this journey? Well, obviously, I know my way into this rival fairy kingdom. I just really want to know when she's going to let me off the leash. I mean, obviously, she hasn't done that already multiple times, right?
So I think this is a pure clarifying question. So it sounds as if maybe she doesn't really trust you more than other people. It's more like, why does she sort of have to trust you and bring you along because of your unique expertise?
Hmm. Yeah, well, I guess when an assassin hears trust, they either think of a mark or a whale to be brought on shore, or they think it's a professional level of expectation that a job will be done. And I am treating it in that second way, obviously. I mean, she doesn't really trust anyone in the kind of normal human way of using the word.
Okay. So we now move to the last question, which is, the queen is under attack. Do you defend her? Now, the game changes slightly at this point. Up until this time, we have each been able to answer one question at a time. And then, of course, everyone else can ask, clarifying questions. But when this card comes up, either organically or in this case, due to timing, then we all get to answer this question one after another, and then the game is over. Now, we could just answer this question like yes, no, but that doesn't really tell us too much about what the attack looks like, or it doesn't give a satisfying conclusion. So the way that I found works pretty well is, each of us continues in the order that we were going, and we answer this question, but we also may provide some kind of scenery around what this attack looks like. And you can leave blank spaces, for everybody else to kind of fill in. But yeah, like, whoever's answering the question at the time can add more about what is happening, because we don't know what that is, right, until we've added it. But I will say that during this phase, and I don't know if it's by rules, but we could ask clarifying questions. I find most of the time it doesn't really happen. Instead, it's everybody's kind of like it's almost like epilogues, if you will, right? Everyone's giving a little bit of the queen is under attack. What does that look like? And do I defend her personally? So I would ask everyone to repeat the question when it's your turn, and then answer it as you will.
The queen is under attack. Do you defend her? I feel that for reasons of programming, I would essentially have to. And so when the unseelie fairies drop from the trees above us, yes, I will, draw a circle around her with plasma fire and hope they can't get through.
The queen is under attack. Do you defend her? What I notice about these unseelie fairies is they have these strange mechanisms that they're using, these firearms that seem to belch out some sort of fire that's focused in some sort of light, almost like a ray. And it's almost like it's coming from some sort of device that's, shaped like a firearm, so to speak. And I think I recognize those. I think I kind of recognize once the plasma fire, their own plasma fire starts bombarding our terrible, horrible boat, and oh my god, that would be ridiculous. And yeah, I think I'm kind of the first to run to warn the queen. I'm running behind the android bodyguard, just be like, we're under attack. Then yeah, so I'm definitely moving to defend her.
The queen is under attack. Do you defend her? I think as I see these fairies attacking, I stand and watch, because I know that she will not die here, not really. And the ones defending her, they will only spill their own blood.
The queen is under attack. Do you defend her? No. Promises are made to be kept, not delayed by traveling in circles. And knowing that the queen requires us all to die in order to be reincarnated, I will back away and attempt to claim the Delta on my own.
The queen is under attack. Do you defend her? I don't think so. No. She's here with her android bodyguard and this disgusting changeling who betrayed me. I'm tempted for a while to go there and just throw that changeling into the plasma fire. And maybe, but in the end, I think, well, the queen, that was her plan. That's why she brought us here. She has a fate in mind for us that's even more terrible than what happened to my brother. And so I think I'll take the example of the other guy who's interested in the Delta and see if we can kind of forge an alliance, maybe, because, well, no, if not, I can still assassinate him.
So the queen is under attack. Do I defend her? I mean, yes, of course. And she foresaw some of this. The the first 4 times we came here, she said the circumstances were not right. And hence we kept going in our circle and losing more and more of our retinue. I mean, we started 100 strong. You know, in this last one, we're down to what, 9 or so when we started. But it's as she's foretold. She said the 2 that hate each other would try to align, and I can see them doing that now, which is why, you know, I assassinate them. You know, I'm seeing the changeling go down due to an arrow by one of the, you know, the attackers. But the synthetic seems to be doing pretty well and is holding up pretty strong. She says he will collapse by the end, or they will collapse by the end. But I don't know. I don't get to see it because I go up and I take an arrow for her, and I collapse down to the ground. And I'm struggling. I'm losing my sight, but I can still see a tunnel vision, and I see the queen, and I see some of who's left. And I want to stay long enough to see the end because I've been here for so long, but I don't know if I can last.
The queen is under attack. Do you defend her? No, I don't. See, the Unseelie fairies, they are much nicer to the few elven people that are around. And so I've been waiting for the opportunity for this to happen because I was the sleeper cell assassin. And I go towards her advisor, see her dying, shaking my head because I was hoping, being one of the few that has had this knowledge of what the queen has been doing, to maybe it would have changed her mind. So I give her one last gift and even though I can't take her memories away because the queen had given her this fire, I give her memories as a gift before I walk away to be with the Unseelie.
The queen is under attack. Do you defend her? Definitely not. I mean, despite losing most of my memories over the past few years, I still know my mission. My mission is not to defend her, it is to kill her. And so when I step up behind my android lover to put my finger on the failsafe device in his in the energy core, they don't notice it. They don't take it any differently than usual. And so that hidden ray gun with all this power, all this radiation, blasts the queen from behind.
And that's the end of our game.
Woo!
So what happens next? Does she reincarnate the way she wanted? Who knows? But we can
Maybe
discuss
she becomes a space bee.
Maybe. So, and it, you know, the game itself says, of course, you can discuss this stuff as you wish, but the game itself is over. So once we've all answered the question, what I'd like to do is, if everybody still has a few minutes, I'm going to definitely take like, we're going to stop the recording in just a moment. We'll say goodbye to our internet friends, and then we could do a little bit of debrief if people are still available. So first, let's say goodbye to the internet.
Bye, internet.
Bye, internet. We love you.